The year was 946, and England was at a crossroads. The kingdom, stitched together by war, alliances, and blood, was fragile. King Edmund I, called the Magnificent, had just been slain in his prime at a banquet in Puckle Church. His sons Eadwig and Edgar were far too young to rule. Thus the crown passed to his younger brother Edred, a man not as robust as his warrior predecessors, but whose destiny was no less great. Edred was no towering figure of battlefield glory. Instead, he was known for his fragile health. Contemporary chronicles hint at a condition that left him unable to digest food properly, weakening his body. Yet beneath this frail exterior lay a will of iron. Where others relied on swords, Edred leaned on patience, cunning, and an unshakable belief that England must remain united, no matter the cost. For nearly a century, the Viking menace had haunted England. From the burning of Lindisfarne in 793 to the invasions of the great heathen army in the 9th century, England's soil had been watered with blood. Although Alfred the Great had struck the first major blow for unity, and Edward the Elder had carried his father a stream further, it was not until Edmund's campaigns that much of the Danelaw had been tamed. But in 946, the Viking threat had not vanished. In the north, the Kingdom of York remained unstable, a place where Scandinavian chieftains and Anglo-Saxon nobles vied for control. For Edred, keeping England whole meant subduing York and preventing it from falling into Viking hands once again. Edred was crowned king at Kingston upon Thames, the traditional site of West Saxon coronations. Here the bishops and lords pledged allegiance, and Edred swore his sacred oath to rule justly, to defend the church, and to safeguard the land from its enemies. But unlike his predecessors, he had an additional burden. His reign would not be defined by great military victories alone, but by the struggle against his own weakening body. Even in this, the English saw something admirable, a king who bore suffering with dignity, whose perseverance mirrored the endurance of the kingdom itself. Almost immediately, Edred faced his greatest challenge. The Kingdom of York, restless under Anglo-Saxon influence, declared for a Viking ruler once more. In 947, Eric Bloodaxe, the feared Norwegian king and son of Harold Fairhair, seized power in York. Eric's name was not earned lightly. His reputation was steeped in brutality and the ruthless slaying of rivals. Edred could not let this stand. To leave York in Viking hands was to risk the unraveling of all his forebears' achievements. In 948, he marched north with his Fyrd, the levy of English warriors. His army ravaged Northumbria, burning villages and seizing supplies to break Viking control. The monasteries recorded the devastation. Edred's fury was no less than the fire of the invaders he fought against. At Tan Shelf, he confronted the rebellious Northumbrians. Though peace was briefly restored, the north was a tinderbox, ready to ignite again. The saga of Edred's reign and the story of Eric Bloodaxe are inseparable. For several years, Northumbria swayed between submission to Edred and defiance under Viking kings. Eric Bloodaxe was expelled, only to return. Other claimants rose, including Olaf Sitriksson, known as Olaf Kjolrun. In 954, the final chapter of this struggle came. Eric Bloodaxe was betrayed and slain, reportedly on Stainmoor in the Pennines. With his death, Viking rule in York ended for good. For the first time in history, all of England from Wessex in the south to Northumbria in the north was firmly united under one crown, that of Edred. While he forged unity with a firm hand, Edred was constantly at war with his own body. Chroniclers noted how his health often failed him. He could barely eat without illness striking him down. Yet he never let weakness deter him from ruling. Unable to fight like his forefathers, Edred relied heavily on his counselors and on the church. Chief among his allies was Dunstan, Abbot of Glastonbury, later canonized as one of England's greatest saints. Dunstan guided Edred with wisdom, reinforcing the bond between king and church that would become the backbone of England's governance for generations. Edred's reign marked an era of increasing closeness between crown and church. His generosity to monasteries was legendary. He gave lavish gifts of land and wealth, strengthening the monastic communities that preserved learning, culture, and faith during these turbulent centuries. More than just piety, this was strategy. By securing the loyalty of the church, Edred bound the moral and spiritual heart of the kingdom to the monarchy. It was a partnership that would endure long after his death. Edred was the son of Edward the Elder and Adchifu of Kent, making him the grandson of Alfred the Great. His siblings were kings and queens themselves. Athelstan, his elder half-brother, had been England's first true king, while Edmund I had carried the sword of unity. His nephews, Edwig and Edgar, would continue the dynasty after him. Thus, Edred belonged to a family of rulers who, in less than a century, transformed Wessex from a regional power into the throne of all England. Though victorious over the Vikings and secure in his rule, Edred's body was failing. By the early 950s, his health had sharply declined. He spent much of his later reign in religious devotion, relying on his trusted advisors to oversee the kingdom's day-to-day affairs. In 955, at the age of around 32, Edred died at Frome in Somerset. His body was laid to rest in the Old Minster at Winchester, the burial place of West Saxon kings. His death marked the end of a reign both fragile and strong, fragile in health, strong in resolve. Edred is not remembered with the glory of Alfred the Great or the brilliance of Athelstan, yet his achievements were no less vital. He was the king who ensured that England remained united at its most precarious moment. By defeating Eric Bloodaxe and ending Viking rule in York, he secured the dream of his grandfather Alfred and his brother Athelstan. One kingdom, one crown, one England. His reign proved that strength is not always measured by muscle or sword arm. Sometimes it is measured in endurance, in patience, and in the quiet resolve to finish the work begun by others. Edred may have been weak in body, but in spirit he was unbreakable. Today, Edred is one of the lesser-known monarchs of Anglo-Saxon England, overshadowed by the legends of Alfred, Athelstan, and later kings. Yet without Edred's steady hand, England might have fractured once more under Viking rule. His victory over Eric Bloodaxe was not just the end of a rival, it was the end of an era. Edred's story is a reminder that history's heroes are not always the strongest or the most celebrated. Sometimes they are the ones who suffer quietly, who fight battles unseen, and who, through determination alone, keep a kingdom from falling apart. Edred, King of England from 946 to 955, was one such hero.